All right, here's my audience. And here's my informational speech. So today is December 6th, 2025, and a couple of days ago, Spotify Wrapped came out. So I think there's going to be a member or two in my audience that doesn't know what Spotify Wrapped is. So right here I have my Spotify Wrapped from this year. Basically, it's a service provided by Spotify, and it essentially shows your listening statistics from from the last year. So that has your top artists, top songs, minutes listened, top genres, and everything. And so my top artist was Drake. So I've decided to give a speech about Drake. So I'll be covering his early life, accomplishments, and some of my favorites by Drake. So starting with his early life, Drake's full name is Aubrey Drake Graham. So that's actually why his name's Drake. It's because his middle name's Drake. So that's where the name comes from. And so Drake's cultural background, he's actually half black, half Jewish, which is kind of an interesting thing. And so I have this quote by Amara Pope. It says, "By facing similar struggles and various forms of subjectivity, he legitimizes a place within different marginal groups." So this is a very interesting thing. Some could say that the reason that he's became so popular, or at least part of the reason, is that he's able to identify with lots of different people, and he's able to create music that a lot of people can feel sort of relatable to. Next, he's from Toronto, Canada. He's from Canada. I don't know if you can. There we go. This is the Canadian flag.
Nice.
And he actually grew up in the Weston Road neighborhood initially for the first part of his childhood. And that he references that in his song Weston Road Flows. Pretty good song, by the way. And then he moved later in his childhood to the Forest Hill neighborhood, which is a lot more affluent. It's definitely not the slums, as a lot of rappers would say in their songs. I started from the bottom, I didn't have anything, I was poor growing up. And so that's actually not exactly the case with Drake. And one of the reasons for that is he actually was an actor before he was a rapper. As a child, he was a child actor on the show Degrassi: The Next Generation. It was a show produced in Canada. And he acted on that show for a little bit. He was one of the more central characters in the show. So that's just an interesting tidbit about him. So since we've learned about his early life, we can go on to his accomplishments. So one quote I have here to say is by Alexandra Boutos. It says, "Arguably, Canadian hip-hop is anomalous." So rappers that are popular in the United States generally don't come from Canada. So in fact, Drake is the exception in that way. So I think that it's very interesting to see how popular he's been, and he's actually, we'll get into it, but he's pretty much the most popular rapper in the world, and he's not even from the United States. So we'll go on to his Billboard achievements. He has 2 certified diamond songs in God's Plan and One Dance, and he was the number 1 artist. This isn't Billboard, but he was the number 1 artist on Spotify for the 2010s, meaning most streamed artist. So he has, for Billboard, the Billboard Top 100 songs, he has the most charted songs for any artist ever, the most top 10 songs and debuts all time, as well as the most top 10 debuts in 1 year. And he also has the most cumulative weeks on the top 10 and the most consecutive weeks on the chart for any artist. And then he has 14 number 1 songs and is the second artist ever after the Beatles to occupy the whole top 5 for a given week. So moving on to Grammys, the trophies right here, Grammys. So he has 4 Grammys from 47 nominations, which is certainly relatively worse than his Billboard achievements. You'd expect a lot of artists that are this popular to be more critically acclaimed, but Drake is actually not very critically acclaimed. A lot of critics don't especially like his music. I'm not sure why that is. I like his music, so I can't necessarily relate. But one interesting fact is that Kendrick Lamar last year with his song Not Like Us, dissing Drake, got 5 Grammys for just that one song, which is more than Drake has in his whole career. So that kind of goes into the public perception of Drake. He's not especially loved by the public. He has a lot of fans, but for those that aren't fans, they don't especially tend to like him or his music very much. So moving on, since we've covered his early life and accomplishments, we'll go into my favorites from Drake. So I have a lot of favorite Drake songs. There's a lot that I like, but my favorite song that I wrote down here is Tuscan Leather. Tuscan Leather is it's like 6-minute long song, and it's got a lot of very, very good bars in it. I think it's probably his best written song ever. And I've written down this line, wanted to tell you, accept yourself. You don't have to prove anything to no one except yourself. I just thought that was a pretty cool wordplay. I was looking through the lyrics. It was a pretty cool line that I liked a lot. And I think that the production on that song is very good as well. The beat is really good throughout, and I really like the synths that come through about halfway through the song. It's like an earworm. I don't know if you're familiar with that expression, but it's very interesting to the ear. And so for my favorite album, Take Care, I would say, is my favorite Drake album. It's a very good album with a lot of different variety. It has energetic songs, it has sad songs. So the variety in production is very interesting. You have songs like Over My Dead Body with kind of like a sad piano type production. And then the singing sample, very, very good. Probably one of his best beats ever. And then you have Lord Knows. Lord Knows is one of my favorite songs by Drake as well. And again, it has a super addicting sample flip as well as a more like energetic production with lots of horns and such. And then there's a variety of different performances on the album. So you have songs like Headlines that are very like energetic, upbeat rapping performances. And then you can contrast that to songs like Marvin's Room and Look What You've Done that are more like sad and more emotional focused. And so that's really why I like Take Care. It's a very addicting album, and there's something there for everyone. So since I've talked about Drake's early life accomplishments and some of my favorites by Drake, I'd like to finish with the final statement saying that music is a super, super important part of my life, and I think a lot of people can agree with that. And music has really almost elevated my life experience. And I think that's something that everyone should be striving for. So when I hear people say something like, oh, I don't really listen to music, I just listen to whatever's on the radio, I would urge you to really get into music, and it's something that can really transform your life. So thank you guys for listening.